So rude. I don't mean to be. I love him so good. But welcome in, guys, to day 22 of 30 of our live challenge. I'm just so glad to be here. I'm so glad if anybody's even watching or listening, or if you catch it later, mod on. Oh, that's the thing that I needed to check out to make sure I don't
That
get
was
the.
me. That was probably me.
Okay, let me know because I'm going to move this over. But I had, when I was editing, I had the audio tripping out, dude. It was like it was doing the echo, and I almost wasn't able to get the footage. Some of it I probably shouldn't even, but I didn't want to get rid of it because I was like, no, this is good stuff. The sexual energy one and all that. Did you see the ad I made for it? Anyways,
I sure did.
it was awesome, wasn't it?
Yep, you are creative.
Thought it was great. Welcome in, beautiful souls, to day 22 of our 30-day challenge, Awakening Truth, Make Up Your Power podcast live. We are also live streaming on YouTube and Riverside. So then that way, if you guys join us live, you will also be on our podcast later that streams on Apple Podcasts, Podbeam, and so Spotify. So welcome in, everybody. Tonight we are talking about emotional intelligence from a what? What would you say, Tia? Psychological, a spiritual, and an intuitive lens, right?
Yeah, I think all three are appropriate because the more the more diverse and the more open to looking at emotional intelligence will help you will help guide you through your next navigation, your next path, whatever it might be.
Absolutely. And for everybody that's just listening in, to give you kind of an idea of what emotional intelligence, when we speak of that, okay, it's knowing what you feel. So if, say, Tina says something and I get triggered and I just snap back at her and I get really, really rude, and is that called for? Is there reasoning behind that? Was that appropriate? Did I maybe overreact? Was I maybe responding from a different place? That is showing emotional intelligence. That is knowing what you are feeling and understanding why you are feeling it, right? Choosing how to respond
Yep.
instead of reacting,
It's a
taking a silent
self-awareness.
pause.
It's
Yes,
it's that self-awareness, and in the space in which I work, you are only coachable if you have a level of self-awareness. So,
1000%.
absolutely.
1000% with my clients as well for the psychic medium astrology readings, guys. It's super important that you come in open and aware, not defensive, cold, cut off, because that ends up creating it's more difficult, right, to kind of coach. It would be more difficult for you to coach people if they're more closed off. Same goes if you're working with energy in the spirit world or what have you. There, that creates kind of blockages. So that's why we want to talk about emotional intelligence or emotional awareness. However, the verbiage.
Yeah.
Um,
I like what you just said there, Nicole. So you can't people aren't going to change what they can't see. So if you're not self-aware of the behaviors or your reactions, you're going to remain stuck. And that's where I think I'm laughing because my grandmother used to say this, everything just falls on deaf ears. So
mhm.
when you think about it, if I'm coaching a client and they can't see where they own the situation or where they're accountable in that space, it becomes like talking to a wall.
Welcome in, beautiful souls. Absolutely. And would you say that that wall could be a state of victimhood? That maybe that person, they're having a hard time taking ownership of the part that they played in because it would take them out of victimhood and being able to justify. You
Yes.
ever hear the I'm sorry, but?
Yep. Very familiar with it.
That right there is a very big token of lack of emotional self awareness.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry should never be followed with a but, because it completely negates the whole point of the apology to begin with. And also, two, an apology goes as far as the action that follows. Oh,
You know what? It's funny. You just said some really good things. So I want to preference by saying emotional intelligence is usually recognized in research as EQ because it's like having an IQ, but
Mm-hmm.
it's your level of intelligence. And I think what people with a higher EQ, they've sat with themselves for a very long time. They're reflective. They can see things from all different sides. They lessen their triggers. Their patterns are not as deep. They're
They're not
aware of,
controlled by them.
yeah, they're aware of the blind spots,
Mm-hmm.
and they're more adaptable in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. And being adjustable is important than rather being a stump. You get what I'm saying? Because you need to have movement, and you need to have movement by being flexible in the conversations and the interactions that you're having.
Yeah.
As somebody who does very, very well, like if we're gonna do like the um intelligence wise with school and stuff, and then we're gonna go EQ, I'm gonna wrap that all day long because emotional self-awareness is important, but what's also important too is that when we take accountability, when we can take accountability on our part regardless of if the other person is going to, right? Because that's another part of where we are regulating and integrating, I say from a spiritual lens, right? Welcome in. Hello. Thank you guys for joining us. We are talking tonight about emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, lack thereof, or not, what that looks like and how that kind of shows up. So welcome in, guys. Feel free to comment down below.
Um, with the accountability piece, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us as human beings to understand self-regulation because self-regulation kind of helps us reduce the defensiveness. So if we could go in self-regulated, we can have a level-headed conversation versus just going in circles, right? It's it's a vicious cycle. So understanding your accountability is huge, but also understanding how to manage it in a room, in a conversation, because people are not always gonna lean in when they feel like you're saying, "I'm sorry, but."
Right. Be willing to meet people where they're at,
Right.
not where you're at. And that's a lot of the times too where there could be a lot of breakage and things. And when you were speaking on pretty much nervous system regulated, right? Because the pause before reacting is huge. I speak on this all the time because I've been on the other side of it, guys. And there's still moments where it happens. And sometimes I'm just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to allow it to because I need that release in the moment. But really taking that pause, and because if your body is feeling very anxious, you can't make the best decision for everybody involved if you're not in a place of calm and peace because you are already in a state of survival and reactionary. So if you feel it, I don't care if you think it makes you look weak or vulnerable, step back from it and say, you know what? And I've done this, and my husband has done this as well. I need a minute. My husband has told me this a while ago. I need time to process.
Well, and you talked about way back in the beginning of all of this, the code word, I need a safe space.
Yes.
See, I pay attention.
Yep, safe space is everything because how can we create emotional safety or stability within ourselves if we don't
Right.
have it in our environment first? Because how can one break down if they're worried about the instability that's surrounding them? You
Right.
know, because people will be reactionary, especially if they are reactionary and defensive. What are you defending? What are you guarding that you're afraid that I'm seeing? Because when we really looked at it from that lens, that's what you're reacting at me about.
It's a big trigger. It's something that's so easy to notice when you get very familiar with an individual when they're telling you not a lie, but they're telling you something different because they're either embarrassed or they don't want to own whatever took place. It's very frustrating because you want to just call them out, but you're also sometimes in a professional setting where you just have to be like, how the hell do I get around this?
Oh yeah, no, I always call it out. But see that to me though has gotten me a lot of flack, but I learned that there's something in being the rebel, okay? And I only say that because one, I am also ruled by Uranus in my chart, but that's a whole nother season, another show. We're back in here, but it's important because when we can take ownership ourselves, then we are more able to ask for it in return, to call it out from some, you get what I'm saying? Rather than being like, I'm worried about how this is going to be, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. You're less likely to fall in line with something that is untrue if you stay true to yourself.
Those are the people that want to be coached. Those are the people that come through. They're the ones that say, I I own this and I want to get better. I want growth. And those are the people that I love to see come into my space because they are open to feedback. They are open to being transparent. They know that whatever they're saying is in a safe, confidential space and judgment free.
Absolutely.
And it
And
just
it's
it's
also what you're
amazing.
providing them too.
It's amazing the comments I've gotten over the last couple weeks about some personal growth that people just needed to be aware of. They tapped into in the conversations.
Because you're from an observation standpoint. We as professionals we come from a safe, judgmental free observation standpoint. And I think that what happens is that we allow the energy to naturally unfold with whoever our client or person is that we're interacting with, that they are able to see clearer, which goes back to spirituality, intuition, right? See clearer the guidance that's trying to come through, or like the coaching that you're trying to share, or the messages that I'm trying to share, the education, right? Because it only falls on deaf ears if they're not open. That's where resistance will happen along the way. But we're at a point where I feel like a lot of people are like, my outside world just isn't matching up anymore, man. I got to figure out how to navigate this inside world. And with your coaching and what we do with the intuitive development, is that we're really trying to help empower people to stand stronger in their emotional intelligence and become an emotional container of safety for themselves and for others. And that is something huge because that means that you have boundaries and you have safeguards up as well to ensure that you can hold that space, because otherwise, you've seen it very quickly, burnout happens. It gets real quick, and then you almost start pulling in those kind of clients that create even a little more burnout
Yeah.
because you're falling out of alignment, you know.
Well, and one a couple of things I took from a past employer was, we as a society are no longer curious. We just jump to what we assume it's to be the truth. So when we stay in a curious space, the space remains safe because when you're curious, you don't allow judgment to creep in.
Mm-mm.
And when you're curious, people start to talk more. They don't even realize what they're saying until you go and you recap what they said, and they're like, oh, I said that? It's just interesting to watch it unfold because they're just in the moment. They're just shooting the shit, having a conversation, they're being real. But that ebb and flow is what makes that connection so important.
Oh, absolutely. And that could be all the difference in being able to evolve as a person out of the repeated patterns and the cycles that are happening up until that point, right?
Right.
Because the
Right.
breakthrough can only happen if again you remain open, but in the same time being aware that where you're being open, because not everywhere is a safe place to share, have an open share. And that again goes back to emotional self-awareness, emotional intelligence, like what we're talking about tonight. And we want to share that with you guys to help you guys develop it. Maybe it's foreign to you. Um, so how spirituality can connect is emotions can be like messengers. So if say your body is getting real excited and anxious in the moment, it may be your body's way of reflecting back at the person that they might be trying to create fear for why. What are they trying to control that may naturally not be, you know what I mean? Like they're trying to control a situation. Or if somebody's getting on you and telling you like, you got to respond now, you got to respond now. No, you need to give me a minute. When I worked in the corporate world, it was there, this answer that we need the response now. We need to know your yes or no. Are you invested? Are you going to do this or not? And that messed up a lot with me and my emotional self-awareness
Sure.
because it would confuse me, right? Because I'd be like, well, wait a minute, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't match what I'm saying. So being able to understand your nervous system and how your body's showing up will also help you understand more clearly what's actually happening around you.
Yeah, and emotional intelligence could be it could be very easily understood and easily misunderstood.
Hmm.
You may think you've grown enough to allow yourself to say you're emotionally intelligent until you're challenged in one of those situations. And in all transparency, I can remember, going to a therapist and sitting there and walking through certain scenarios and me being like, all right, don't crack, don't say something you're going to regret, because I was getting defensive because I was not at the point where I was ready to talk about those emotions. And because my therapist just wanted to break through quickly, I ended up leaving her because I felt rushed. I felt judged. Even though I was speaking my truth, I felt I was being judged because I wasn't moving at the pace in which she wanted me to.
Right. She wasn't allowing you the safe space to allow you to unfold naturally.
Right.
Yep. And that's what happens a lot in those fields. And at the same time, though, if we look at the other end of it, what does her look like? Is she working for people that are almost to a point where she is genuinely not in the space as to why she originally started the position because she is getting so burnt out? So in turn, is naturally rushing you and losing a client and may not even realize that opportunity that she could have had. But at the same time, you've got to have the time to, because, and also, you might not even have been ready to put words to the emotions.
Exactly. It wasn't
Yeah.
something I was prepared to speak to. I was still kind of holding that close to my heart. And I think a good coach, a good therapist, whomever it is that you're talking to, when they hold a pause to a point where it's uncomfortable for you, that's a win, because you're allowing them the space and the energy to really focus, because you're not going to change the topic. You're not going to come up with another question. You're waiting for them to answer what you just asked. And that's when you get to see the awkwardness, the body motions, the words just trying to come out, and it's just but, and it's really interesting to watch that unfold, because I had to learn the pause. I really want to just tell you what you're feeling and how to help you. Where this has been such a good challenge for me is to be able to say, nope, ask the question, step back. They know that if they can't answer the question, they just have to tell you. If they're sitting in that pause, in that awkward state, there's something they want to say, but they just don't know how.
Right. Trying to understand it. And I can agree with you and relate to you on that one because in the work that I have been doing for so long, it's been shooting out all of the information that I can in that time period to empower them, give them every bit of guidance that I'm getting. So going to school now and learning the counseling aspects is very interesting. Because I mean, I learned about it when I went in for behavioral health years back too, but it's a different kind of a world when you're allowing the pause because I see even for myself where that pause is still very uncomfortable for me as I am observing it just as we're talking because I struggle. I talk because I fill that quiet up.
Yep. Yeah, it's hard. It's a
And we
real
do a live
skill.
podcast too, so it's like we can't really pause because
Well, we could, but we've got technology under control right now.
Fair, fair. But I'm loving the discussion though, guys. Like, if you guys are listening in or if you catch a replay, just take the time, take the second to sit with something before you act on it. Whether it's in a conversation, whether it is going to the store to get chocolate or to get gum. It doesn't matter what, it's just taking a second, seeing if you even had all you needed. But what is my partner? Okay, so with sorry, I got distracted. I'm gonna be real because I have my reflection notes here to pop in and I should have just kept conversating where I was at. So I lost that. But oh, negatives of low emotional intelligence. We'll just skip to here because I was telling you about taking the minute. Well, because I was saying taking the minute before making the decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah, see, I got it. So, the negative aspects that can show up with low emotional intelligence, and this is nothing to be embarrassed of. If you weren't in an environment where you were able to build up that emotional intelligence or be able to emotionally express, a lot of us didn't have that. So, we ended up having to go through life experiences, education, people to get to that point. So, don't get frustrated with yourself if this is something very new or foreign to you. You're not behind. You're exactly where you're meant to be at this time in life. So when I share that, I also want to put that disclaimer into. Um, so the negatives of low emotional intelligence could be constant reactivity. Madonna mia, have I been there? Poor communication. Poor communication could show up as if we're being triggered, if we're being rude, if we're kind of saying people's, saying things out people's names, stuff to try to hurt them. That usually is proof. If you're on the end of somebody who's got low emotional self intelligence, it's usually a good tool to see very quickly. If somebody starts saying nasty things to you, it means that they are incapable of having a more secure, emotionally aware conversation with you. So you're going to want to pull back because the only conversation you're going to have is with a toddler in that moment. I mean, right? See, that it's true because I've been on that toddler side of things.
Yeah, we all
Um,
have.
yeah.
Um, I'm just curious, is anybody in the chat an empath? Because this is where empaths get drained. Empaths have a real role and responsibility they play in the world. And it's their intuition, it's the way they show up, it's what they see in you or feel in you that you're either hiding or you haven't recognized yet. It's the getting you to speak freely and free from fear and hesitation. That's why when you're an empath, you feel emotionally and mentally shot after being around so many people at one time.
When
You're
you become, yeah, especially if you're not aware that you're an empath,
right,
because then you become the container rather than the transmutator.
right.
Does that make sense? And what I mean by that is that empaths, they're the emotional space for you to be able to like Tina was just saying, right? But if you're not aware of it, and you just take it on, that's where you could end up becoming extremely drained. So also grounding, being intentional about what your experience is, and knowing that whatever experience that you're in, it's a challenge, it's an opportunity, it's an opportunity for growth, because I can have a great emotionally self-aware conversation, and it's not to say that one person hits it just right or in just the right moment, and I don't turn into Bebe's kids.
Yeah, it's really emotional intelligence is tied to so much just in everyday living. Um, I've never been more emotionally stable than I am now that I'm spending more time in my house alone building my business. And that's because I absorb everybody's energy, good, bad, or indifferent. There's times when I walk into like a restaurant and I can automatically shut down because I can already feel I'm gonna have a rough night. I'm not gonna be in the moment. I'm not gonna be listening to conversations. I'm gonna be paying attention to everything else that's happening around me.
Hmm.
And it's exhausting. And so for me, that pause was just sit in your own space. Sit in your own space, give yourself time, and get reacquainted with who you are. or who you're becoming.
And be creating your own safe space, even if it's a room, you know what I mean, or it's a home. It
Yep.
doesn't, even if it's in a rental or in a shed, having somewhere that you can just be.
Yes.
And if there's not people that you can have that with, be okay with not allowing them to come over. It is okay if you don't want people to come over, if you're worried that they're going to leave some kind of energy behind that is going to shift your environment, because that is how you're going to be best able to be that emotionally stable or have that higher EQ, like Tina says, when you do go out into more chaotic environments, because we can't. I mean, it's a part of the world that we signed up for, right? There's going to be places that we don't have maybe necessarily control over just yet. Like once I get full homestead style, like I'm gonna be in the public eye this way, and that's gonna be where it's at. But and then quiet community. But when you're in city and stuff like that, you really got to be able to ground the energy, because it will create dis-ease in the body. But when you do make the changes, when you do the work, you become more self-aware. You regulate faster. So you're almost like, if you were somebody that was quick to trigger before and be like, no, like in middle school when we're all hard asses, like, who is this bitch? You know, stuff like that. To the point of now of somebody could be just yelling in your face, and you know the entire time that it is their own trauma that is unfolding, and you are just a safe container for them to be able to unload. When you stay in that observation, that is the biggest knock in the tooth that you can give anybody as an opportunity for them to be able to face themselves in that moment.
Yeah, if you could be grounded and you could just be present, you would be amazed as to what you can pick up on. Um, it's I'm gonna go for outside the spiritual space for a minute and talk a little more about in the workplace. When you have leaders who are not emotionally connected to their colleagues that report to them, it is such a it speaks profoundly and basically echoes through the hallways lack of trust. And when you have lack of trust, you're not building a team that's going to be able to connect, make relationships, do the work, maintain it. So having all of this awareness and being able to just regulate yourself is what helps set you up for success in anything that you want to do. And investing in yourself, like Nicole said, it's most rewarding when you see those changes and you see them playing out and maybe someone recognizes it. Um you're more well aware of sustaining the new behaviors versus going back into those old cycles. For some reason I had a lack of words for a minute.
No, it was great because the card that got pulled when you were talking was self-trust. So I just thought that that was really beautiful and encapsulating of what you were just speaking about. Because the more self-trust you have, and it's a skill, right? It's something you got to work at, like a sport or like a hobby, to really, really build up. And because, guys, 10 out of 10 times what are responding to is only an inner reflection of what we haven't healed and insecurity that we haven't faced. That is creating the victimhood mentality. But at any point, you have the choice and the opportunity to choose differently, show up differently, and also ask for that in your environment too. Like that's what's pretty cool about us being beings on this planet, is that we too can ask for what's in our environment. It is true. So if you don't want stress and chaos, then you've got to start creating that in your close environment. You ever hear the saying, you are the 5 people that you hang out with most is who you are? You ever hear that saying? The 5 people you keep closest to or that you interact with the most is who you are. So you are who you're around, is the same saying.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate to the second half of what you just said. That's why we choose carefully who's in our circle, right? When we're kids, we want to have lots of friends. We want to have like bestie number one, bestie number two, right? But as we get older, we realize the circle needs to be smaller because we're experiencing things much faster at a higher level. We may not be able to digest it all, and we just need to be around people who kind of understand who we are and can also bring us along if we need to be brought along. When you're with too many people, you get lost. You're just, I find myself just wandering. Just put me in like an amusement park and my mind's gonna go, I'm gonna have my own ride without even having to go very far. My emotional intelligence is like at its peak, just paying attention to all the people around me.
It puts me in a people pleasing mode if I'm like surrounding myself around a ton of people. Like I gotta entertain or host somehow. And then what it's doing is it's taking me out of my natural. So that's why less is more, which is always important. And two, being mindful who are the people behind your back that are in front of you? Who is cheering you on when
Right.
you're not in the room?
Right.
Those are the important people because all day long people could show up to your face and because narcissism is definitely a part of a lower lack of a negative part of emotional intelligence, right? So you want to be aware of who you're all letting into your environment because of the noise that it's you're not going to be able to be clear to think on what you want to manifest in your world if you are falling for everybody else's noise and chaos because people will bring that to you if that's what you're letting yourself be open to. So back again to self-awareness, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, I like using the word EQ better than the words emotional intelligence because I feel like when we use the word emotional intelligence, it can come off degrading. Like it's containering. You know what I mean? It
It's a
contains.
label.
Yeah, I don't like it. I can tell every time I say it, I keep putting
Yeah.
something else with it.
Well, and it's new terminology because when I learned about EQ, it was like there was a picture of an older man watching a girl with her cell phone. She was holding it up like we all know she was taking a selfie. But in his mind, he was trying to understand, why are you talking to somebody with your phone so far away? It was making that connection that even generationally, you might be comfortable in where you are and how you've grown up and the way you've shaped your life.
Yep.
And then the next generation's going to look at you scratching their head like, why do they do what they do? And like that's where emotional intelligence is key in like society. It's helping to break down those barriers and getting people to be more curious and thoughtful about the why.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we grew up in systems that were more like we don't talk about emotions and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, we all know that.
Yep.
So it's very important to acknowledge at any state, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? Are these thoughts helping or hurting the situation? And taking a second, right? Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. We are talking about emotional intelligence, emotional safety, stability, what low emotional intelligence looks like, and what
No
evolving.
emotional intelligence looks like.
I mean, what?
What no emotional intelligence looks like.
There it is. Thank you. Yes. So that is our conversation for this evening. We're on day 22 of 30. So we got 8 days left of our Awakening Truth Make Up Your Power podcast live challenge for because my dad's birthday is right around the corner and so is my son's. My son's in like 2 days, which is pretty cool. Um, for everybody just coming in, feel free to comment down below on where you think your EQ lies. I'm just kidding. I've just got a funny. I'm gonna blame that on my dad because he literally just showed me like a scale, an EQ scale of a 1 to 10. I'm like, what the fuck, Dad? What are you doing?
It's a good question. Are people self-aware of where they fall in that space? I mean, you
Yeah.
don't. There's no number to rate yourself, but where do you see yourself as a human being when you connect with others?
Yeah. Are you more reactionary? Do you pause?
Are you
Um,
uncomfortable?
right. Are you do you observe or are you getting on? Are you feeling what's going on around you and feeling defensive? Like Yeah, quite a few. It's really all this work and comes down to is reflection.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you can call it spirituality, you can call it psychology, you can call it whatever the hell you want. It's reflection. Because every time that we reflect on every single thing that we do, we have an opportunity to heal it, to learn from it, to evolve from it. Like this conversation's got me feeling so intelligent today. I feel
Your,
so smart.
your EQ's up.
Oh my God, it's through the roof right now. If my head was
It's
any bigger, you wouldn't even be able to see me on the screen.
it's in all seriousness, it does tap into some of those areas in our life. Like I consider myself an emotionally intelligent person just because I've had to learn and grow how to adapt to other people. Um, whether it was their leadership styles or, you know, their religious beliefs or whatever it might have been, I always had to learn to kind of be the one that understood it so that when I spoke to them, I could relate and they would trust. Because trust is huge. And if somebody doesn't trust you, you're not going to form a relationship that sets you up for success. So, my heart of heart, it's really, you probably are feeling a little bit of a shift because we're talking about something that's triggering something in your mind that doesn't get discussed every day.
Well, it's exciting because I feel like I put a lot of work in personally on my journey. I feel like anybody, any of the viewers have as well. Think of a time when you acted like a child and you were like, man, I really could have been more grown in that situation. You know what I mean? And then pat yourself on the back and be like, okay, how did I show up after that? Did I do it again? Like, that's the biggest thing when it comes down to it is, are we repeating the same shit that isn't working? Or are we being aware enough to be like, you know what? I'm kind of the asshole. Or I'm kind of creating this cycle of anxiety, or because I'm not standing up for myself. Or I'm people pleasing and rather instead of rather owning my weird. Like, you know what I mean? And those reflections, that awareness is really important. I do it for myself all day long.
Mm-hmm.
All day long, I do that for myself because we are the best parent that we could ever be is to ourselves. Honestly, because as long as we're willing to grow and evolve and teach ourselves new things, then any children or people that we have in our lives will be given the same opportunity.
Yep. Yep. There's I'm gonna mess it up, but there's a saying that God only seats you at the tables with the people that um, fill your cup. So when we fight that resistance to that intuition to stay away from a certain table, and we go sit with them, and then we walk away, and we're like, oh, that just like that just brought me down, right? I, there's this awareness inside of you that you start to feel as to who your higher self is and what matters to you. And if I go over there, is it really worth it just to look like a cool kid, or is it worth it to go sit with the kids that everybody makes fun of because I might actually learn something from them?
Right, like take a second, because usually, let's be real, the fucking cool kids, first of all, they peak in high school. And second of all, the cool kids are the ones that conform. I'm sorry about y'all. If anybody has watched me for a while, I love tie dye. I love being different. I'll have crystals on my forehead. Like, be you, dude. And so, really, the ones that are the nerds or the outliers or whatever the hell they call them, they're going to be the coolest too because they're the creatives. They're the ones that are going to be more aware. They're going to be the ones that when you have real shit go down, they're going to be the ones that are there for you. Not the ones that look cool or look expensive. Well, I'm going to put it that way. Look expensive. Those aren't going to be the ones that are going to be there for you. Nope.
I'm
Want to
having
know?
a I'm having a flashback to high school, and this is God. I don't even want to say how long ago. I went to school with this girl who tried so hard to fit in with the cool kids. I was a neutral party in school. Like I just went with the flow. I hung out with the coolest of the coolest to the nerdiest of the nerdiest, right? I just that's what my vibration was.
I wasn't allowed to hang out with anybody, so I didn't have any friends.
Well, you you didn't know who you were at that point.
No, I literally wasn't allowed to hang out with anybody, so I couldn't have any friends.
Well, at school you couldn't hang out with anybody.
No, how the hell would I hang out with them in school? I'd be in class.
Did you go to a school that didn't give you a lunch break?
Lunch break. Oh my God, there was like 3 people. Yeah, I know. Listen, go ahead. Continue on your story. We don't have to go back to my phone.
Well, let's just see if I can remember what I was going to say. So this girl would wear very expensive, trendy clothes to fit in. Now, I grew up in a town where people felt privileged. I was not a privileged individual growing up. My parents always had to make ends meet. This girl would walk around dolled up like I don't know what, and not realize that the tag is sticking out of her shirt because she's going to be returning that shirt now that she wore it and she was seen in it. And that was a behavior that just continued with her until somehow somebody clicked in and said, "What? Why, Meredith? Why do you wear the clothes with the tags on?"
Because she can't afford the kids. Send people to the Joneses.
That's right. Her father, I think her father was a nurse, and she was portraying him as a physician. And when that came through and out, people started to back away because they didn't trust her.
Right. But the reality of it is that how insecure that girl was.
Right.
How like that's what I see now.
That's what it is.
You're like, come on, get out
Yeah.
of here. Stephanie's on. Hey, girl, hey. So Stephanie is going to be our our co-host along with Tina, because we're going to be going to 5 nights a week after the 30-day challenge is over. Stephanie will be joining us. So I already got our like little image all set up and everything. It's gonna be great. We're going to introduce her in. I mean, I don't want to put her on the spot. Maybe tomorrow night if she's available, but the plan is to introduce her in this week at some point. So welcome in, Steph. We're having a great conversation about emotional intelligence. You just came in at the conversation of us being in the 90s and being in school. And I've been out of school for 24 years.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say how long I've been out because
But
I'm
technically,
older.
I'm still in school. I'm 10 years in right now, so I've been in school for 34 years. What is wrong with you? What am I doing?
Your emotional intelligence is off.
No, it's pretty acute now.
You're not vibing. You're not vibing.
So that means if I've been in there for, they're trying to count. So I've gone 7 years not in school. 10. What the fuck?
That's impressive because people who are in a continuous mode of learning they're a special kind.
You always got to be open to learn, man, especially when you're self-taught. Especially when you also don't grow up in an environment that kind of like influence that education for yourself, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of self-learning, and emotional intelligence, like getting that down quite a bit, and realizing like you have more control of the environment, but I understand if like you're in work environments and you want to be able to be friends with everybody, you hear coworkers kind of pitching, and you're like, I'm gonna take a stand for them because I got them, and then you go stand up for them, and then they just power back like, I didn't say nothing to her, I didn't say that you had to do nothing about it, and then you look like the asshole. Everybody ever had that experience? Because I did a lot, which is why corporate America hated me.
Well, I remember a particular incident in school where there was a bully and people just let her bully them. Like she was, I wish I could say names, but wouldn't help because I don't even remember her whole name. But I had a special name for her, and I won't say it because it's not anything I take pride in. She was a bully, and she used to bully people that I was friends with. And one day I went right up to her, kind of nudged her closer to the lockers, got in her face, and just said, "Why are you better than everybody else?" And it was an insecurity of hers. That's why she bullied. And
Always is.
it carried from the hallway into the cafeteria where she decided to continue to pick on this girl I know and take her yogurt and cause a scene. And I literally couldn't take it anymore. I just got up, I took the yogurt and I threw it at her. And I remember her walking out of the cafeteria with the yogurt on her face, and I thought to myself, oh shit, that was not right. I knew better. I still did it because I felt like I was defending my friend who couldn't help herself. But she was being really, really mean to this poor girl. Like, she was pointing out, like, mental illness and physical disabilities, and it was just like I felt like the girl needed somebody by her side. Within 10 minutes I was being called into the superintendent's office and having to explain my actions, and then being told that my mother was on her way to pick me up, which, if any of you were lucky enough, was like, oh shit, mom's coming to get me. I'm like this, I'd rather start walking home. I don't want to be in the car, but that was like a moment for me where I felt, I think I felt in that moment, you shouldn't have done that. You're better than that. That was beneath you. What you did was what that girl was doing to the other girl.
They
And
were accused of her own medicine in a way, but yeah.
but it wasn't the right thing to do. And that's kind of where I reflect sometimes, is where I pause to say, am I going to the same level, or am I going to rise above?
Right. And that's emotional intelligence, right? Emotional
That's the rise
self-awareness.
above, right? But that was high school.
Right. And so, like, if you were still doing it now, did you learn? Did you want to learn? Did you want to evolve from it? That's the difference. And at any time, you know, you can use that discernment.
Yeah.
At any point in time, and especially as you get older, if you're in school, you're more triggered, because let's be real, when you're put in the public school to prison pipeline, is how I look at school systems, you're put around people that you would never ever normally be around. And then you don't know, and then you're being put in front of authority figures, just people who are older than you, that you now have to listen to, that what gave them the authority to tell you what the hell to do to begin with. And that system's very confusing, especially because the children's first knowing of safety and authority figure is the mother, right? The mother and then the father. So then when you go and you pull that child from those systems and then you put them into that system, it can be very confusing when it comes to emotional self-awareness and whatnot, because you're now being put into an environment where every move that you're doing is pretty much dictated throughout the day. So you don't have a space in a container to be able to really process, which is why more fights and arguments and grouping and everything else would happen. Because division was key. That's why people would go off in groups and this, that, and the other, because then there is just the division.
Yep.
So really being honest about where you want to be and what environment you want to let in. Steph, you want to come on the live? Is that what you're saying? This is bad, so I don't know if that's what you mean.
I think
I didn't
she's
want to
been
throw her on there in case
jumping,
she's car or something.
jumping in and out. She might have.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I think when you talk about either, you know, I know you focus a lot with the schools and the prison systems. I think when you look at the prison system, you can relate to the fact that you're in survival mode. So you're kind of just you're just instinctively going to go where you feel the safest and be with the people.
Same with the school, though, if you think about it.
Absolutely, nowadays, right?
Yeah.
But there are those moments where your body just goes into flight or fight mode, and you just want to protect yourself for so many reasons, right? And we had a family member who used to love to go spend some time in prison, and always came out with stories of solitary confinement, needing new teeth, having whatever crap kicked out of him because he wouldn't conform to the norm. He remained true to himself, and because people didn't like that, they rebelled.
And to be honest, this kid did it to the very end. And you know, when you put that perspective on, he was true to who he was no matter what, I can't disagree with that. But it doesn't mean that I had to like it because of the bad parts that I had to take on it. And that, I won't justify that part. But there is something to that. Because for me, I would have probably gotten my ass whooped too, because I would have been in the same fucking way.
Yeah.
And we're not meant to conform. That's what's beautiful about everybody on this planet. Every single person was uniquely designed, blueprint and all, because somehow or another our unique puzzle piece interconnect with each other when we work as a community and we allow each other to share our individual skills. Because guess what? There is no competition in the spirit realm. There isn't. There isn't. I'm not worried about anybody taking over what it is that I am and who I am and what I do and what my purpose is, because I am here to do that. Tina is here to do her exact purpose. So be mindful of that, because the more you can be mindful about how powerful you actually are as a being, the less likely you are to fall to these false belief systems or conform to something that isn't natural to you.
Right.
And that's why these systems we're seeing are crumbling all over the world so beautifully.
Yeah.
Because it's meant to shift.
I just did a post on LinkedIn today. Do you know what LinkedIn is?
Yeah.
So I post on there to help from a business perspective, and I focused a little bit. I'm not gonna say it was taboo, but I guess it could be depending on who you ask. But it was why everybody is feeling the way they're feeling because of how the world is shaping. And I've gotten some interesting calls about it, which I didn't really expect. I don't know if I hit a nerve or somebody was intrigued. I'm just trying to remember what I labeled it as. So I'm logging in because my memory is shot. But I was quite interested in how that settled with some folks.
Mm-hmm.
Why humanity waking up feels so disruptive is what it was called.
I love it.
And it hit home. It resonated with a few people who just had to pick up the phone and go, that was really powerful.
Because you confirm to them that the systems in which they were inbred into no longer exist.
Right.
And that's the reality that the entire collective is experiencing, and some are having more of a difficult time than others, and guarantee you the masculines that are, because it's been so masculine driven of such physical structures of how life, money, land, producing, working, consumption, everything look like, right? So those that really identified with that
Yep.
are having the most difficult
Yep.
time with it, because now they've got to look within, and they have buried so much and suppressed so much to show up for this physical world that now they got to sit with all that.
Well, and I focused on it because we've been talking about what is the weight in the world right now. We're all feeling some way, and a lot of us in very similar ways don't know how to describe it.
Right, that's what the platform's for.
Right? We're sitting here knowing something isn't right in my world or around me, but it's not me. I'm not broken. It's what is it though that's triggering me to feel like I'm carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders? And it's that heaviness. And that's why I was like, you know what? I'm going to try to find a very professional way to say this. So maybe those that are stuck in that space might resonate with it.
I mean, if the weight of the world's on your shoulders, put the bag down and ask yourself, why am I carrying it? What am I carrying it for? Because at the end of the day, whether it's considered bad or good or how people want to look at things, really everything is one in the spirit world. But if you're holding onto it somewhere, way or another, you think that it is good for you, you still need it. That is why you still hold on to the trauma. That is why you still hold on to the experiences, the addictions, whatever it is, the baggage, the weight of the world, because somehow or another, you think that you still need it. So until that time comes where you could be like, do I really need this anymore? No matter how micro or macro it is, you're going to repeat similar to the same cycles, different people.
And sometimes you don't even know what it is though. Like we've been talking about this unknown now, and people are like, yeah, I feel it, but what is it? And sometimes that's really hard to put in that bag and take it off your shoulders because you don't even know what the hell it is.
Well, and what if it's a lot of external of everybody else? Because if you were really to ask them, they'll be like, well, there's something going on over here, there's something going on over there, and it's all fear-based. And at the end of the day, The heart leads with three things, everybody. Love, hatred, or fear. Which one do you want to lead with? You lead in love, then you will always feel whole, no matter what happens around you. Because love with boundaries is self-care. Love without is just silly, baby. But that's where we talk about with emotional intelligence. Oh, look at it. Oh my God, we're at the end already. Hold on. I just want to share one thing. How emotional intelligence strengthens intuition. Because I am very big on intuitive development, that is my wheelhouse. And Tina's is very much grief counseling. I say counseling all along because it's much bigger than just grief. I believe with how her coaching is. But anyhow, it's important to understand because you'll have less emotional noise, right, from the outside to where you'll be able to hear softly what your body is trying to guide you on, right? So more clarity will come. Better discernment, meaning you'll be less reactionary to falling victim or falling into old habits or attitudes or fights or being reactionary, right? Because you're taking a minute. And you'll also be less likely to consume things that are not good for you that can also add to you being more reactionary. So there will be more trust in your inner guidance. You'll show up more feeling in control no matter what is being shown to you externally because you have that inner knowing that no matter what, it is going to be what it's going to be. And you also have a stronger ability to know when something feels aligned or off. Your body will let you know. When you sit with what your body is feeling, where you're feeling it, your body is telling you exactly what you need to know and how to move forward. You just got to take the minute. So with that, I want to hand this over to Tina because she usually always has a reflection for us at the end of our session.
I do.
Your comment time. Perfect.
And I promise this is a rather short one, but I think it's fairly powerful. So emotional intelligence is the quiet courage to see yourself clearly and the steady grace that helps others rise. When you stay open, regulate your reactions, and listen with empathy, you create the safety where real growth happens. Your presence becomes the leader, your self-awareness becomes the invitation, and your emotional intelligence becomes the atmosphere that lets others breathe, soften, and expand. Carry that with you, the knowing that every moment of inner clarity becomes a gift you offer the world.
Love it. Remember, emotional intelligence is how we learn to respond with wisdom, regulate with awareness, and trust the deeper knowing within us. So as I always say every night, guys, first of all, we'll be back here tomorrow night from 7 to 8 p.m. I do want to say before I do my closing that we will be coming back with talking about, well, then I have them in my notes prior to this page. What will we do? Oh, psychological safety. So we're going to be talking about psychological safety and emotional safety when we come back tomorrow night. Looking forward to that and sharing some things with you guys. But as I always say, if you woke up today, your soul still has purpose on this planet. So you might as well go out there and live it authentically true to you. Love and light, beautiful souls. We are creating a community of unity, so feel free to follow, like, and share. And if you want to listen to us, you can listen to us over on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We are Awakening Truth, Make Up Your Power podcast. Love and light, beautiful souls.
Good night, folks.